What is up, everybody? It is week 13 of the NFL season. DraftKings Value Plays for week 13. It's your man, Dat Del Rey Boston, Sean Weymouth, and my man, Maddish like a radish. Lee, last name first on Twitter. How you doing, buddy? It's been a long time since we've been on live, but long Thanksgiving weekend. A lot of fun times, a lot of family, a lot of friends. So how are you? How was your Thanksgiving, buddy?
Yeah, man. Holidays were great. Always great to get to spend time with the kids, with the family. Eat. Who does not love to eat? And
sure.
that's what Thanksgiving's all about. It's all about the gluttony, right? So yeah, I'm glad to get back into it. I actually did not play any DFS last week. Took a little break. Got to enjoy the football games, even though my Cowboys took an L this Thanksgiving, but put up a lot of points with their B squad offense. So looking forward to getting a few weapons back and righting that ship. But I'm looking forward to talking about some of the opportunities that are on the slate this week.
You know who didn't take an L this weekend?
Yeah. You guys are lava hot right now, huh? Lava
red hot. Mac Jones, red hot. Red hot.
And only a couple of weeks ago, you could have got them to win the division. It was like 25-1 or something insanely high like that. I think even last week or 2 weeks ago, they were still at 10-1. Now they look primed to take the division, primed to maybe even take the AFC.
A couple of weeks ago, I never would have taken that bet. You know what I mean?
You wouldn't have even thought about it. Rookie quarterback, you got a team who they've got a bunch of returning starters coming from COVID who haven't played in a year. They didn't play that well in the beginning of the year. Then all of a sudden, man, they hit their stride. Have they ever?
Yeah, defense is playing great. Max playing great. How about that Kendrick Bourne second touchdown? I mean, clearly was not meant to be a touchdown. He just willed it himself. I mean, it was awesome. It was even better that we hit him up on the DFS page on Real Deal Fantasy HQ. He was highlighted, man, and that's what we're talking about. The thing is, every single week we are putting out content for you guys to get better lineups, build better lineups. We're not just talking about values tonight. We'll talk about stacks later in the weekend, and then we'll have the full preview, the showdowns, everything like that. And I'm telling you right now, there's gold in there. There's gold in them there hills. You just got to find it, right? And Kendrick Bourne was in there. And if you had Kendrick Bourne in your lineup, you were happy. So let's just get into this right now. It's week 13, DraftKings Value Plays. Lee and I have kind of selected a few, but right off the bat, the thing that is striking to me is how cheap the quarterbacks are this week. With no Mahomes, no Allen on there. Your most expensive quarterback is Lamar Jackson at 7,800. You're already going into this thing with value right at quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing we talked about, kind of before we came on the air, is just how hot and cold quarterbacks have been this year.
Yeah,
and the interesting stat
you gave a crazy stat a minute ago.
Stat that we heard that I heard that there has been no quarterbacks in the NFL this year that have scored 15 points or more in every single fantasy game this year. So it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And there's only 4 quarterbacks who have scored at least 10 points, and 10 points isn't even that crazy of a number to reach for a quarterback. That's
right.
Most quarterbacks, they achieve that on one successful drive. To think that there's no quarterback in the NFL that has gotten you at least 15 points in every single game that they have played in. You can find some value, and you could take some shots on these guys because even the top guys have been letting you down, consistently, realistically.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, like, the crazy thing is, even like Russell Wilson, who, by the way, has looked absolutely unplayable in DFS and in regular fantasy last 4 weeks, he ended up with 19 fantasy points just because of that last 2-minute drive.
Yep.
But that saved them. And it's, you're talking about exactly. You're talking about garbage time, and so now you're talking about a guy like Russell Wilson. You're relying on garbage time for Russell Wilson to bring you home for your fantasy lineup or your DFS lineup. It's just been a nuts season. It really has.
Yeah. I mean, you've got big game quarterbacks who have had a lot of turnovers in games. Lamar Jackson having that interception game.
4 interceptions, I know.
And Ryan Tannehill, against Houston with a 4 interception game. So it's like, just when you think you plucked out a great matchup and, all of a sudden the tides are turned and the defense of the Detroit Lions comes out and plays the best game of the season, that's just the way DFS season has gone.
I appreciate that you are now using my terminology of the Detroit Lions.
Detroit Lions.
The Detroit Lions. You got to express that, man. All right, so let's get into this here. Right off the bat, I know that we usually kind of go down the line. We just talked about it. Quarterback is where you're going to find your best value, I think, because there's some really key players, especially a running back and wide receiver, that we'll highlight when we get there. But quarterback's where you're going to start your value, and it's starting at 7,800. You got no 9,800 Allen like 2 weeks ago. You got no 9,200 Mahomes in this thing. So you're really starting in an advantage when you're just looking at your quarterbacks anyway. But the guy that just jumped right off the page to me is probably one of the most consistent quarterbacks this season, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo at under $6,000, 5,700 in a matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, we got no Debo. We understand that, but this just jumped off the page to me as way too cheap in a matchup that should be, in theory, a competitive game. If Seattle can get their act together.
For sure. And Seattle has been, I believe, the worst rushing defense in the league. I know they're giving up around 125 yards per game. To me, the with the game script and the way it's gone the past couple of weeks, running the ball so heavy, and I know Debo was involved very much in running the ball, to whereas possibly they lean on Jimmy Garoppolo to link up with Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, especially in the red zone. But Elijah Mitchell's touching the ball so many times that
we're going to talk about him too, because they mispriced him.
Sure.
I think 100% on DraftKings. But
For
all right,
sure.
so you don't like Jimmy Garoppolo. I get it. I understand.
It's not that I get it.
Don't worry. I don't feel bad about it. I'm not hurt. My feelings aren't hurt. Who do you got then? What do you got?
So I would start off with Kirk Cousins myself, 6,500. Okay. A little bit more than Jimmy Garoppolo, but I feel like he is going against the Detroit Lions defense. With Dalvin Cook being out, I think they're going to throw the ball a lot more. And I think this could be one of those games where you get a Kirk Cousins 3-touchdown game, maybe a 300-yard game as they, really look to make a statement against Detroit.
The only problem I have with this thing is that Detroit is so bad against the run, and DraftKings did price up Alexander Madison, which we'll get to. They did not make the mistake of making him a cheap dart throw or something like that. The
exact same thing that we just went through. I mean, it really is. It really is. It's what quarterback's going to take the opportunity against the bad defense, and Jimmy Garoppolo can have the same sort of game that that we talk about. He could have a 3-touchdown game, 300-yard game against that defense. Just the same as Kirk Cousins has here. Kirk Cousins, to me, has a lot more weapons to be able to do this, to whereas I'm going to trust him, in the air. I'm going to pay up a little bit more, knowing I can save up, at running back, like we talked about, with a lot of the people out with injury.
But, just looking at this too, when you're starting at 7,800 and you're kind of looking at values and stuff, 7,200 for Tom Brady against the Atlanta Falcons, a team that he has number one, never lost to. All right. It was not just the Super Bowl, not just with the Patriots. He's never lost to this team. And B, over the last 4 meetings against the Atlanta Falcons, Tom Brady has thrown for 350 and averaged 3 touchdowns per game. The last time he played them, 389 yards, 4 touchdowns. 7,200. This is a great price in a matchup that Tom Brady just dominates.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, when they played earlier this year, he threw 5 touchdowns.
5. You're right. Sorry, excuse me. 5. You're right.
In a 30-point game, and Tom Brady has, he's the guy who gets you that 30-point upside. That we look for in a quarterback. And Atlanta gives up all the yards, all the points. Right. And the run game has never really taken off, for Tom Brady, to whereas Leonard Fournette's value is in the passing game, so you're going to get the majority of the points, the majority of the yards in that game are going to go through Tom Brady. So yeah, I'll pay up for him because I know I'm going to get probably a 22 to 24 point floor, coming into that week, and that's great return on that.
And just looking at that stat line, you're right. 24, 36, 276, and 5
touchdowns,
which is unbelievable.
Yep.
Incredible. I love the price there. We can kind of keep going on quarterback, but the thing is, you have Russell Wilson sitting there at 6,400. It's like I don't want to play Russ, but that's a way too cheap price for him. Below him is Burrow and then Wentz. I mean, are you playing Burrow, Wentz over Russ? Are you really going to play Kirk Cousins over Russell Wilson? I know how bad he's looked, but seriously, think about that. What you're saying out loud.
Honestly, yes, I can. Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson notoriously year after year has always been a quarterback that started off hot, and he's gotten just detrimentally worse as the season has progressed. Not only are we in that point where Russell Wilson is regressing like he normally does, but he also has this finger injury, which has made it to where he's airmailing balls 7-yard passes. 7-yard passes.
The pass that went over Gerald Everett's head was like, what is happening?
Right. And it just, he doesn't look healthy. It's maybe he's not gripping the ball. Maybe he's just not feeling the ball coming out of his hand. You just mentioned how he's unplayable. I'd rather play Derek Carr, at $6,000 against the Washington football team, traveling west. I'd rather play him, honestly, over Russell Wilson.
Now, really quick, I'm just looking at this, right? So the last 4 weeks, okay, we're including this past Monday. If he does not have that 2-minute drive, right, does not have that 2-minute drive, does not throw the touchdown pass, all the things that happened in the end of the game during really garbage time, we're looking at 3 straight weeks of 10, 7, 8, 9 fantasy points. I don't know what is happening in Seattle. And the idea that DK Metcalf didn't get targeted until the last 3 minutes of the game last night? Like, what happened there? Like,
it was like he got the first one thrown over his head at like halftime, and then
it's just
he forced the ball to him, and then he forced the ball to him the rest of the game. So that was, that was part of it. So it's you have a play calling, it's up in the air. They're trying to feed, force feed the ball into their playmakers that, frankly, they're just not designing plays for him properly. They're not getting the ball for, in position for him to win. I can't trust that offense at all. Not a single player on that offense can I trust in DFS. Yeah. Daily fantasy, you have to play some of those guys just because of where you took them and what stance they take on your team. But in DFS, there's not a single player on Seattle I want to play.
Now, how do we feel about Taylor Heinecke here against the Raiders?
Greg, it's a game that could be a somewhat of a shootout as two teams where their defenses have not been playing very well. I take that back. Washington's defense, albeit against some lesser competition, last week, has played a little bit better. Recently,
I think Washington won that game because of their defense last night. Honestly.
Yeah, well, I mean, but again, you got this week against Russell Wilson that looks terrible, and then last week against Cam, / PJ Walker. I'm not putting a lot of stock into how their defense is played against an NFL offense. Not to offend.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But again, without Darren Waller, is the Vegas offense really going to be that scary? Right. Coming into this week. So it could be a game that's a shootout. It could be a game we're looking at, just like last week where it's another, 2-score, 3-score game. And I believe JD McKissic got hurt towards the end of the game there. And that
his agent tweeted that he's okay. So,
okay. All right. That's fine.
Listen to the agent. He's going to be okay.
If it is something where JD McKissic is forced to miss the game or anything like that, I would dial back Heinecke just a bit. As I believe that just McKissic unlocks Heineke's floor, between his running game and, his ability to check down and McKissic to make the most of it.
I will say I was really happy to see the targets that Logan Thomas got in his return back. Should have had a touchdown without question. Another guy here down in this area here is our friend, your friend of mine, Tua, going against the New York Football Giants.
Yep.
Also 5,500. That might be one of his lowest weeks price wise. I just want to take a quick look here. No, okay, it was $4,000 week 6, so I was wrong about that. But 5,500, it's kind of where he's lived all season long. Going against the Giants, I think a good matchup. Their defense has been playing really well recently. I think this is a great price too.
Yeah, the $4,000 price tags. I believe he was coming back off of injury, so
Yeah,
there was still some speculation as to whether Brissett would be starting, but yeah, Tua's got all the abilities. He might be having Devontae Parker coming back this week. We've seen
what a
games
lift that would be.
We've seen games where he's thrown the ball 40 times, plus, could this be another game where, they're throwing the ball 40 plus times? Maybe. I believe Daniel Jones is supposed to sit this game. So maybe, hey, if Mike Glennon can do something with that offense and those weapons, then great. Perhaps we see Tua throwing a bit more. If not, perhaps the game script is, more Myles Gaskin heavy. But yeah, great opportunity and a great price for Tua. I always love me some Tua.
Yeah. Hey, so let's move on to running back here. And I got to tell you, the guy you're going to put, you got to play. You got to pay, and you got to play. Jonathan Taylor going against the Houston Texans. I think this could be another, opportunity for another 4-touchdown game, another 100-yard game. And at 9,200, obviously he's the most expensive running back on the slate. But I think this is the guy you're going to want to pay up for. He might have one of those games that if you don't have him in your lineup, then good luck. So when you're looking at a 9,200 there, we found some value in quarterback. Who do we pair him with? If we're presuming that Jonathan Taylor is your running back one, who are you pairing with from a value standpoint? Anybody jump out to you right away?
Yeah, for sure. Injury begets opportunity. And for me, the number one opportunity value wise is going to be Jamal Williams this week.
Yep.
Against Minnesota. He's going to be coming in as the bell cow back. He's probably going to get a lot more passing work this week, or at least I hope he'll get more passing work this week against the Minnesota defense that doesn't necessarily scare you. That's an offense that he could touch the ball 25 times this game. And with that, he could get you a 20-point game. He can get you into the end zone. For 5,400, it's definitely somebody I'm going to want to look into in some of my lineups to balance, the higher price like Jonathan Taylor, like you said.
Yeah, great price on Jamal Williams. The guy that I think we both kind of highlighted a few minutes ago, Eli Mitchell. Not really sure. I'm guessing this price tag. I don't know where this price tag came from, but at $6,000 even, he has just been an absolute beast when he's on the field. He looked excellent on Monday Night Football, and now he gets to play Seattle. That allows a ton of. Let's see how many yards Seattle allows. So 274 passing yards, 124 rushing yards. Total almost 400 yards per game Seattle's allowing. Way too cheap for Eli Mitchell. Especially with no Debo there to take those weird goal line runs and stuff, right?
Especially no Debo, but we talk about a guy who 27 carries last week, 5 receptions, 6 targets. You take Debo out there, you spread Debo's touches out. Maybe Eli Mitchell gets a few more of those touches. We're talking about a guy who could touch the ball 40 times this week.
100%. And by the way, can DraftKings please give him a picture? I mean, come on. This guy deserves a picture. He's been a stud all season long.
6th round rookie, and we still can't get a picture.
Come on. This is terrible. Anyway, all right. So
I do love that. Do love that price. Do love that call. Do love that opportunity this week. One other guy I'd like to bring up as far as values go, and we've seen the past couple of weeks, the Baltimore running game has kind of been Devontae Freeman's game to have, and Pittsburgh this year hasn't necessarily been as strong against the run as they have in the past. They're giving up over 130 yards per game. I think this could be an opportunity where Devontae Freeman is, and Lamar Jackson, I believe, has still been sick, kind of coming into this, whereas they could be leaning pretty heavy on the run game, and Devontae Freeman is the head of that. Pretty good price there. Is I'm probably going to look at him in what is a pretty good opportunity against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh looked absolutely terrible on both sides of the ball this past weekend. It's another team that I'm just not sure what's happening there. On paper they should not be playing the way that they are, but that's kind of the way it is. Somebody that I was a little bit surprised by, a little bit taken aback by that they're down here at this price tag too, just from the opportunity standpoint, is David Montgomery. And I have to believe it's because of the terrible game that the Chicago Bears played. But the reality is there's absolutely no reason why the Bears should not have had David Montgomery touch the ball 30 times last weekend. For some reason, they were doing, I don't even know. I was screaming at the television, literally Thanksgiving, like, give the guy the ball. Like, what are you doing? Like, what I mean? This guy's a workhorse, right? But anyway, point is that 5,600, you're getting him at a discount. He was definitely, if I'm not mistaken, 6,200 on Thanksgiving. So he's been priced down. And yeah, this matchup against Arizona is a little bit tough. But I mean, what else can the Bears really do besides try and run the ball? They just do not look good otherwise. And if they're going to get anything going, they have to get the running game going, and that's through David Montgomery. I would hope that they look at that game film and say, hey, you know what, maybe we made some mistakes here, and they go back to where, the bread and butter, and that's David Montgomery. 5,600 is a good price, I think.
I agree. A guy who touches the ball a ton in the passing game as well. Andy Dalton coming back in to stabilize that offense a little bit. I think David Montgomery could be poised for a pretty good week this week, for sure.
Yeah, and you just look at the game log, right? So, here against Detroit, right, everybody runs well against Detroit. 23 attempts, 106 yards, 25 fantasy points. But even come down here against the Rams, a much tougher defense, 16 attempts, 108 yards, 21 points in week one. I feel like the Bears just don't want to use the weapons that they have that can work. I don't know. I was just watching that game. I just was scratching my head. I didn't understand what was happening. I just didn't.
For sure. Talking about those Rams, though, one guy I'd also like to keep an eye on as far as value goes. If for some reason Darrell Henderson is going to miss this game, and I know he's had a thigh injury, Sony Michel is somebody we definitely want to keep an eye out if he's named the starting running back.
$4,300 against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, give me that.
He is going to be mega chalk. If Darrell Henderson is not playing, he's going to be mega chalk,
and for good reason.
Yeah, another guy who's going to be very chalky. I think, and it looks like there's a possibility Jordan Howard might play, but Boston Scott, another guy, did not get a price bump at all for anything. $4,600 against the Jets. Even if Jordan Howard plays, this is a great flex play because we know that Jordan Howard isn't going to necessarily take a lot from the passing game. Boston Scott can. $4,600 against the Jets. I just think this is ridiculous pricing. It's going to be more. It's going to be another chalk. It's going to be Sony Michel and Boston Scott and Jonathan Taylor. That's going to be the lineup, right? That everybody's playing. But I mean, you can't avoid it, right? Like against the Jets.
No, you can't avoid it. And Miles Sanders, got a bum ankle this week. I think the whole running back room, in Philadelphia has got a Q tag coming in, to this week. So,
yeah.
I think you feel the most confident about Boston Scott if he ends up being named the starter.
Well, he also had the Q tag, but I think his Q is not as bad as the other Qs. I just wanted to take a quick gander at Jordan Howard here. If Jordan Howard does play, they do like him in Philadelphia. They have used him, but he did not practice today, it looks like, according to this. And Very doubtful. So, I mean, that Boston Scott price, keep an eye on that because I think it's going to be very chalky. But I mean, you get so much done if you plug in $4,300 Sony Michel and $4,600 Boston Scott, and next thing you know, you're going to have a lot. Well, we just do it right here. We can just try it out and see what happens. Tell you the truth, I don't know why I'm speculating here, Scott.
Yeah.
Right, like we have the technology to be able to figure this out. It's right here. All right, so then we're gonna go Michelle. All right, where is he? Here he is, Sony Michel. Yeah, so we got $5,800. We haven't even done a defense yet. Why don't we do Rams? Let's see. Who's on the bottom here on defense this week? Jaguars, Lions, Falcons. Ooh, football team versus Vegas. $2,500. There we go.
There you go. I'll buy it.
$6,400. Who we say? How about Tua quarterback? Let's see what's happening here.
Goodness.
Yeah.
We're getting all the studs at quarter.
Damn, 66-20, right? So now you tight end, cheap tight end. I mean, you can see how we could go. I'm just saying that this is going to be the build. It's going to be the build. These two guys and Jonathan Taylor.
Sure.
All right. So anybody else in the running back room that that's standing out to you from a value standpoint?
I mean, that's really it. I mean, you have a few games with some blowout potential this week, to whereas maybe you take some of the running backs behind the main guys, maybe like a Ronald Jones, whereas Ronald maybe he sneaks into 2 touchdowns this week.
If you're playing, by the way, if you're playing showdown in that game, Ronald Jones is always a great showdown choice. One guy it just popped in my head. If Kyler is back, under $6,000 for James Conner against Chicago, I think is another great price. I mean, we've seen James Conner go off for 3 touchdowns in games when Kyler's on the field. So that's another cheap one. Just kind of rolling through here really quick. Let's see.
Naheem Hines is always a decent play, for $4,000 and a game against Houston, which has a surprisingly spry defense the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy too get a little bit more work. DJ Dallas looked probably like the most spry of any other Seattle running backs on Monday Night Football, under $5,000. So this tons of value in running back. But like I said, I just think Jonathan Taylor is going to be the guy you want in against Houston. Maybe Joe Mixon against the Chargers too. I think he's up there. Is a great play as well. But anyway, let's move on to wide receiver here. So we got Cooper Kupp at the top at $9,000. Deebo Samuel's out, so he's out, right? And then Justin Jefferson at $8,200. Love that price against Detroit. So we got some studs up here to play for. McLaurin against Vegas, Keenan Allen at Cincinnati, Thielen always coming on strong. You know what I mean? This great plays up top here. So who are we looking at from a value standpoint down here?
Yeah. Well, as far as the values, I'm going to go down to somebody who finally kind of popped and had a pretty decent game. That's Mr. Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
5 catches, 81 yards. More importantly, he had 10 targets. And, when you look at how that offense is kind of shaping out with Cooper Kupp kind of being the main feature,
the guy
with Robert Woods, no longer being around, who else is really, running those routes and going out there? You got a little bit of Tyler Higbee, here and there. You got the running backs running out. You got Van Jefferson, but Odell's going to be out there on a ton of routes. As we saw, it takes one pass, one slant, one quick route for him to take it and go to the house. So, $5,500, decent price against the very, very beatable Jacksonville defense.
Yeah, and you said the same. You said the guy that I was going to mention actually is Van Jefferson, right? Had that great catch. I don't know why it's not coming up correctly.
Yeah,
I'm not typing
right.
There he is. There's the guy, Van, $5,300. Look how happy he is. He's like, I am involved now. I have got things to do on this field. And $5,300, I love that price for Van Jefferson too. Another guy that I was a little bit surprised by that did not get any sort of bump here is the one guy on the Seahawks that seems to be performing is Tyler Lockett, under $7,000 in this matchup against San Francisco. It doesn't take much for Tyler Lockett to get you there. It's not a bad price tag on him at all. Somebody else that's down here I can't even get over, and it's obviously he's been hurt all season. But when was the last time you saw DeAndre Hopkins at 6,200? Under $7,000 in this matchup against Chicago. Came back limited at practice. He's going to be on the field. Kyler's going to be back on the field. He's going to be a steal. He's going to be chalky at this price, no question, but way too cheap for DeAndre Hopkins.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's we talk about opportunities all season where you're going to, the cheapest you're going to find somebody. And this might be the lowest price of DeAndre Hopkins' career. And I mean, he is so due. So primed for one of those 2 touchdown DeAndre Hopkins 10 catch games. Right. I mean, it just
15 targets, 10 catches.
Right. Just be happy you have someone that happens,
100%. Another guy that was forgotten in this offense, I think, for a lot of people down here, 4,600, not a bad wide receiver 3. Darius Slayton up against the Miami Dolphins. They've been playing better defense, but Daniel Jones is trying to sling that rock. I don't mind that price at all. What are we going to say about this guy here, Laviska Shenault? We got no more Agnew. We got no more the postman there that the footballs call. What's his name? Dan Arnold, the tight end. Shenault. The coach comes out and says we're going to give this guy running plays. He doesn't even touch the ball once.
Yep.
What are we doing here? Because this is way too cheap in this matchup where that the Jaguars are going to be playing catch-up ball and they're going to have to throw the ball to somebody. I don't know. It's another conundrum.
What do you do? Do you turn back the clock and do you play Tavon Austin? Tavon Austin caught a touchdown last week. What else can you do for Laviska Shenault as far as opportunities go, other than what he's got going on now? He's another guy who I've got to kind of sit on the side and not play until he gets hot. And and unfortunately that might not be the best way to do it. And maybe you want to cash in on his opportunity because his price is so low now, and he does have that opportunity. But I just can't put enough faith into it to build him in my lineups when I can look at somebody like, for example, a Josh Reynolds. We talk about about Josh Reynolds.
Yes.
We talked about him in a couple weeks back. This wide receiver room, it was begging to be taken over.
100%.
In that first drive, boom, Josh Reynolds takes over and, 3 quick catches, 50 yards and a touchdown on that first drive, finishes the game, or maybe 2 catches for 50 yards, but he finishes the game, 3 catches, 70 yards, with that touchdown. Who else are they really going to be thrown to out there? You got on the outsides, I should say, Khalif Raymond's been running, most of the outside routes, and realistically, he's a slot guy.
I think the thing about Josh Reynolds that you got to remember is he's a former Ram, right? Yes. So you have a connection there with Jared Goff. And I think the one thing that I like about this price is that I think he's going to go really overlooked. And he's the kind of guy, you get 16 points out of a $3,400 guy. And by putting him in there with that stack we were talking about with Sony Michel and Boston Scott, and you're talking about a ton of value there. But my point is that you don't even need him to hit 16. He could hit 14. He could hit 12 at that price. It doesn't necessarily you don't have to break the bank. But what you're counting on here is that connection between the former 2 Rams, Goff and Reynolds, that he's going to get you a little bit of a price. And I think he's just going to go overlooked. I don't think people are going to go that deep on wide receiver from a price standpoint this week, unless they're trying to fit in Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor and Lamar Jackson all in one lineup, which, it's doable, but I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. I think going down this far it's going to go a little overlooked. And that's why I like this guy too at this price.
Yeah, I mean, and one other guy, and you had brought up Laviska Shenault to Jacksonville wide receiver, and what are you doing, with those Jacksonville wide receivers? Down here we have, Laquell Treadwell,
Yeah.
former, high draft pick of the Minnesota Vikings,
Hmm.
8 targets last week, 4 catches, 53 yards.
Yep.
He's going to be operating out of that slot that was once Jamal Agnew's. A lot of opportunity, and realistically, that's been one of the few spots where Trevor Lawrence has had some success this year.
Yep.
And a Rams defense that has been pretty beatable, but through the air, maybe not on the outsides, but in the middle of the field and between the numbers, where Laquell and Treadwell will be operating. This could be a game where he gets you a ton of yards and a ton of catches.
The only thing I worry about Laquan Treadwell, if he is indeed going to be taking that slot role, playing the Rams, is we have seen Jaylen Ramsey doing this spy thing all season long. He hasn't been shadowing very much. He hasn't been out running a ton of routes. He's been doing this spy thing. And that could be dangerous for a slot receiver.
Sure.
On the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I hear you, and he's this guy's always had talent. Whenever he's had the ball, he's just never been a guy that's been featured anywhere, and it's too bad. I want to just kind of pop up though, because I think we're skipping over some prices that I think are a little bit odd to me. One of those prices right here is going to sound weird, but Russell Gage, he has kind of, I think, really finally said, like, okay, we need a playmaker other than Cordell or Patterson. Everybody's double teaming Kyle Pitts. We got to find something. And in this past weekend, he really came out and had a good game. And I think that he could do that again against a very beatable Tampa Bay secondary.
Yeah, I think Russell Gage has had a pretty good season. Spotty. He has missed a few games here and there. But he's been pretty consistent, getting you some double-digit games. I think Russell Gage is a great underpriced play this week in a game where they're definitely going to be playing catch-up.
No one's going to play him, right? Because people are going to want to play Brady. Right, people are going to want to play Brady. They're going to want to stack him with Evans or Godwin. Antonio Brown, if he comes back, he's going to be in that mix too. Gronk's going to be in that mix, right? So they're going to have that stack, and what they're going to do is try and cram in Cordell Patterson, of course. Yep. Why not? Yep. Right, or Kyle Pitts. But nobody's going to play the receivers because there's no trust from the DFS players with the Atlanta receivers. So this guy's going to go overlooked. And I think if you are playing. This is a great kind of run back here, right? Because if you are playing Brady, who's going to be chalky at the price he's at, if you're playing him with Godwin and Evans, like probably everybody is going to try and do, or Gronk, any of those three, that's going to be a chalky build, right? And again, you're trying to put Cordell Patterson or Kyle Pitts in there, it becomes even more chalkier. So use Russell Gage instead and save some money and save some salary and save some ownership.
Yeah, or use Tyler Johnson, who's going to catch a touchdown this week.
Tyler Johnson too.
He's going to catch a touchdown this week. Watch. But yeah, I mean,
he probably could. He could.
He's going to catch a touchdown this week.
That's your call of the week.
That's my call of the week.
I have a call of the week coming up.
Which is going to happen. It means it's going to happen next week because that's how my season is gone, right?
It's going to happen in week 18. There it is. There it is.
Boom. There it is.
I told you.
Oh, that was cold.
Sorry, buddy.
It's okay. Technically, that'd be the playoffs, though. Hopefully, they don't get a bye.
It would be. And by the way, another guy who's going to be super chalky is Ayuk, right? At 5,600. We know Debo's not going to play. Ayuk's going to be very chalky at that price. That's why guys like Christian Kirk are going to go overlooked. Excuse me.
Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, but Elijah Moore here, right? He's really come on for the Jets. I know the Jets are terrible, but they're playing against Philadelphia, who's not that great on the passing game, right? And Elijah Moore's come on strong. But guys like this are going to go overlooked because Ayuk is going to be so popular, right? Even Odell is going to go overlooked. If Kadarius Toney's back, going against Miami, Everybody here is going to go overlooked, and this guy here, Darnell Mooney, right? Like he's kind of the offense, right now for the Chicago Bears, because they don't want to run it with David Montgomery and they don't trust anybody else. And Marquise Goodwin's always hurt. Darnell Mooney's kind of the last man standing. $5,600. He's only like $100 more, or he's the same price, as Ayuk. And Ayuk's going to get all the ownership. This guy's going to get overlooked. So this is a value play that you can definitely play, and I can guarantee you he's going to be low owned.
Yeah. I mean, he certainly has been the entire offense, regardless of what quarterback's been out there. Darnell Mooney has kind of taken over as the number one guy. And he's making the most of it. But yeah, let's move on to my favorite position. Let's move on to the
tight end.
The tight end. The value position.
Well, it's another week that you have the same. It's like the same thing going on with quarterback. Without Kelce, which they still hadn't priced up Kelce last time he was in there. Yep. But without Kelce in this thing, right, the most expensive guy is Darren Waller. He might not even play at 6,200. So now you're looking at Mark Andrews as possibly tight end one, and he's at $6,000. So it's kind of like quarterback. You can sit there in the middle of the pack at a $6,000 to $7,000 range quarterback. Same thing with tight end at a $5,000 to $6,000 range tight end. Paying up there, you can be a little bit different in those situations because people are either going to pay way down or all the way up. And suddenly, next thing you know, you can still continue to build a good lineup because you're getting so much value just by sitting in the middle of the pack with those two positions. But anyway, we'll look at tight end here. A guy that just immediately jumps out to me all the time, every time. He's your favorite. He's mine. He's Gronk, right? He doesn't need to score touchdowns. He just has to catch 174 yards in a game, right? Like, I mean, that's what he does. He's just the man, right?
Yep. I mean, he looked healthy last week. He looked he looked like he was back. He's gonna score touchdowns. Let's call it what it is. Yep. So very high floor play for Gronk.
I don't mean to insult Gronk, but take a look at this picture if you can zoom in at all. Is Gronk rocking a comb over?
A little bit. I
don't know.
A little bit. I can see what you're saying.
Right. I don't know.
Might just be how he styles his hair, but
okay. I'm just saying. Hey.
So, two tight ends, two guys that I want to bring the attention to. The first one, since I don't believe Darren Waller is going to play. Foster Moreau. Yes.
Man.
The game in which he
this guy
he took over for Darren Waller before. He ended up with I believe 6 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown, getting you an 18-point game. If he gets you a 10-point game at a $2,700 price tag, that's going to be worth it. But
gonna be fine.
Realistically, this is a guy who can get you 15 points this week, taking over for a guy who gets you routinely 18 to 22.
Another guy that I love the highlight in whenever these teams are in showdown. Oh, I can't even spell his name right. I've been having a little bit too many Coors Lights tonight. But anyway, okay. Where is he? I'll find him. I promise you. I'll just say his name. O'Shaughnessy. There he is.
O'Shaughnessy. I've got him on my computer. I swear that was going to be number 2.
$2,600.
That was going to be number 2.
Look at this guy. He has the best picture in DraftKings. He literally looks drunk in his picture. His name says I'm drunk, and he looks drunk in his picture. Yeah. But now there's no Dan Arnold down there, and we know how much the Jaguars want to use the tight ends.
Use the tight ends.
What the heck? Against the Rams, I'll play James O'Shaughnessy at 2,600, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, let's go back before James O'Shaughnessy got hurt. Before they traded for Dan Arnold. First week of the season, 8 targets, 6 catches, 48 yards. Still no touchdowns, which is surprising. But as far as tight ends in Jacksonville have yet to score a touchdown, or at least between the two main tight ends. I believe the third string tight end does have a touchdown, but I think this could be a week where we could see a Jacksonville touchdown, from a tight end.
What's interesting to me is, if I'm not mistaken, this guy, Ryan Griffin, he's been the starting tight end for the Jets. Correct. And James O'Shaughnessy is the same price as Ryan Griffin.
Yes, correct.
James O'Shaughnessy is the backup tight end.
No, he is now the starter.
Well, he was the backup, though.
Well, he
was the number two.
Week.
He was the number two.
He came back last week as the number two, and Dan Arnold got hurt 5 plays in, so he kind of popped in as the number one back again right away.
I know,
but he did start the season as the number one and only lost his job because he got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you on all that. I'm just trying to point a couple things out here, right? OJ Howard, we know he's got some difficulties down in Tampa Bay. There's a lot of mouths to feed down there. So I'm not putting that on OJ Howard. He's a hell of an athlete. But Mo Alley, our buddy, right?
Our buddy.
He's the same price as James O'Shaughnessy.
Super athlete.
The super athlete. He's the same price as James O'Shaughnessy.
Yes,
right. Like, I'm just saying that, like, when you look at values, right, you have to look at values in I think 2 different lenses. Number one, is this price going to help me to build a lineup where I can put a ton of studs in there? Yeah, that's why you're playing values. But the other thing is, when you go to look at those values, look at the guys around you, around the values that you're choosing. We all know that James O'Shaughnessy is going to be a very popular play because people are talking about him. We're talking about him. Other people are talking about him, right? The point is that when you look at that for the same price, and probably most likely the same kind of production you're going to get from James O'Shaughnessy, you're probably going to get from Ryan Griffin. You might get from Mo Alley. But the point is that those guys are going to go so overlooked because everybody's going to see James O'Shaughnessy and not even realize that there's actually 2 or 3 other guys that are starting running tight ends on their teams for the same price. So one thing you're looking, when you look at values, don't just look at the price. Don't just look at where everybody's talking about, where me and Lee and whoever else you listen to is talking about from a value standpoint, but just take a second and look around and go, and you can figure it out yourself. Everybody's going to play this guy. Well, $100 more or $100 less is going to get overlooked, and they might be the difference maker. So that's all I'm saying.
And that, ladies and germs, is why Sean Weymouth is the most underrated man in DFS.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that out loud.
Listen to that breakdown. Absolutely. What a call. What a call.
Yeah. Another thing too, Evan Ingram, I can't stand him, but $3,500 against Miami. He's definitely he's kind of coming on. And this is around the time that you like to play guys like Evan Ingram who know the offense well, and the teams kind of get the back against the wall. Another guy here, he got missed by Russell Wilson by a mile over his head, but I mean, he had a great game nonetheless, and he could have an even better game. 3,800, didn't get priced up because prices came up before Monday Night Football. Good price against San Francisco for Gerald Everett too.
Absolutely. And if Pat Freiermuth clears concussion protocol, Baltimore is one of the worst teams against the tight ends. This year. So I could see Pat Freiermuth getting in the end zone again this week, as he's been very consistent getting into the end zone.
Yeah, recently. And by the way, what out of nowhere, Jack Doyle is tight end number 1 in the Indianapolis Colts. Out of nowhere, right?
Yes. I remember
literally
weeks
out of
ago
nowhere.
We talked about how he's just never been heard of, and now all of a sudden comes out with just a 20-point performance, like classic Jack Doyle.
Yeah, 6 catches on 7 targets, 81 yards and a score, 20 points. Classic. Right? Like $3,300. I'll take a shot there again. And the thing is, if he's questionable, I'm not going to play any tight end from the Colts because we know they don't want to throw the ball to Mo Alley. I don't know why.
Maybe
doesn't make any sense. Also, another guy who's really started to come on into his own in this team, Jared Cook. $3,100, had a nice game this past weekend. Not really a nice game, but a nice game for him in this offense. I think it showed a lot. Uzama going against the Chargers. I like this matchup too. There's a lot of value down here in tight end. For sure.
If Freiermuth is to miss the game, Zach Gentry gets to start there in Pittsburgh. Not a lot of tape, not a lot to know about him, but opportunity.
Yep. All right, so let's wrap this up with DST. If you want, we could. I think we got a little bit of time. No one's watching us right now, so we could probably build a lineup if you'd like to while we're here. But let's talk about DSTs.
Yeah. The first guys that jumped out on the page for me would be the Minnesota Vikings. Coming in with the Detroit Lions offense as poor as an offense as we have in the NFL.
Yep.
The Vikings they've got some playmakers on the back end. Jared Goff is susceptible to a turnover. So to me, are three.
Yeah.
To me, they're a pretty solid middle ground priced defense. At only 3,200, that's going to help you balance out all those studs we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and the Vikings have really been playing better, much better defense recently. I think they're going to be very chalky against Detroit. I really do. I think a lot of people are going to play the Vikings this weekend, so it's a good call. One team that I think is going to go underrated here is the Jets at home. 2,500 against the Eagles, who did not look like they remembered how to play football this past weekend. We're not 100% sure Jalen Hurts is going to be out there. It might be Gardner Minshew. By the way, Gardner Minshew is only $4,000 on DraftKings. So if it is Gardner Minshew, he's only $4,000 on DraftKings. Just going to say that out loud. But 2,500 for the Jets at home against potentially wishy-washy Philadelphia Eagles squad's pretty hot. I think the football team against Las Vegas, 2,500 football team looked pretty good this past weekend. Maybe they keep that momentum going. I'm not really going to put it past, honestly, the football team for all of a sudden coming on and making a run in the NFC East. They look pretty solid against Seattle, and maybe it's just they played Seattle and that's why. But I think they're kind of coming into their own a little bit. Another team that I think is going to be very, 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 very chalky is the Ravens at 3,400 against Pittsburgh, who we all saw, or maybe you didn't see, but you probably heard about how bad the Pittsburgh Steelers looked this past weekend.
For sure. And the last few weeks we've done this, I have picked out a defense right at the end that has typically ended up being one of the better defenses of the week. And I'm prepared to do that again this week with the Miami Dolphins at 3,300. You always talk about what it's like for these Northeast teams to go down to Miami and play. Not only that, but we could get a banged up Daniel Jones or even possibly a Mike Glennon against a Miami defense that is on fire. They're playing incredibly well. They're blitzing out the wazoo. I could see a bunch of sacks. I can see some fumbles. I can see one of them going the other way. I think this is a 15-point defense this week.
I like it a lot, and the thing is, even though Carolina, they're kind of nice temperate zone in Carolina, you could say the same thing. They went to Miami; it was muggy, and Cam fell apart. The whole team fell apart. Christian McCaffrey got hurt again. It's a voodoo, man. I'm telling you, it's like a voodoo thing that happens when teams that are from this side of the country go to that side of the country and play in the middle of the winter when they just left, 50 degrees wherever they were, and now all of a sudden it's 90 degrees and humid. But one thing that is interesting about that, right? What we just said, the Vikings against Detroit are most likely going to be very chalky. Look at the price tag, 3,200. This is exactly what I was just saying about tight ends, right? The Dolphins are a great play because they're going to go overlooked. People are going to rush to the Vikings at 3,200 against Detroit, not recognize that right above them is the Dolphins in this matchup against the Giants at home, playing well, playing great defense, only $100 more. And just below them You're looking at the Chargers in Cincinnati. You're not liking that matchup. 49ers haven't been playing great, even though Russ looks like he's terrible. We're probably not going to play there. So people are going to rush to this Vikings team. The Dolphins are going to go overlooked. I guarantee it. And great call.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep. All right. Well, I mean, if you want to build a lineup, we could build a lineup right now. If you don't, we could wait till the stack show. What do you want to do?
Nah, man, let's build a little quick something. So we talked all day, all night, here about how we want to get Jonathan Taylor in our lineup.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how we're going to get Jonathan Taylor in our lineup.
All right. So we'll lock JT in first. Okay.
But I also want to talk about how we're going to leverage these guys to be able to also get Cooper Kupp in our lineup.
Whoa. Okay. Well, let's start off the top
let's
here.
Let's see. Let's work the magic, sir.
$4,500. Okay. So the first thing we do, right? We're gonna go to defense. We got our two studs in there. We're gonna go to defense. And just because we have $4,500 left in the kitty, we can play a Dolphins at $3,300. Yes, we're only going up to $4,750. Yeah, I get it, but it's still helping us save up. We talked about some really cheap tight ends here, so let's talk about some really cheap tight ends. For sure. Let's come down here to our buddy here. Where is he? Here he is. O'Shaughnessy. You know why? It's not just because he's a cheap tight end. He's the run back to Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
You now have a game stack.
Yes,
it
is.
And you're getting value. And look at our price tag. Average remaining salary went up to $5,180. We could do stuff with $5,180, I think.
For sure.
All right, so where else do you want to go here?
So let's see. So we go into running backs. We've got, we talked about Jamal Williams at $5,400.
Mm-hmm.
Being a pretty solid price tag there.
Yep.
Don't think there's anybody else, or unless you want to go Sony Michel at $4,300.
I think
a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like the Sony Michel call for $4,300, but we just don't know what's going on with
right. To whereas I think Jamal Williams is a more we know he's going to be the starter, and realistically he's not that much more to whereas I think he's going to hurt. He's going to hurt us on getting anybody else in.
No, and we didn't really move that much in the needle here. So I think we got to find maybe a cheap wide receiver, somebody like we're talking Rams and we're talking Detroit, right? So why don't we go our buddy Josh Reynolds here at $3,400? Where is he?
Get you like 5,700 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I gotta find him. Reynolds wrap.
REYN.
Yeah, well, Josh Reynolds, there he is. Sorry for the one person watching, but things aren't computing the way they're supposed to compute.
Oh man,
yeah,
Josh Reynolds Ray.
Come on, dude. Here we go. All right, here we go. Reynolds.
REY like a Mysterio. You'll be fine.
I'm with you. I got him. There he is. 3,400. $5,700 left on the kitty here. Let's try and find a cheap flex. Let's throw in this flex thing. I've been down with, by the way, all season. I've been following your lead. I've been saying, you know what, that lead, he's onto something with the wide receivers and flex.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll come down here. You know who I'm gonna play? It's gonna sound kind of funny when I say this out loud. Where is he? Here he is. No, Ron Deshaun. No.
Deshaun Jackson, huh?
Yeah, I was gonna, but no, I'm second guessing it. Okay, so
don't hate it.
We're gonna go cheap. We're gonna go cheap in the wide receiver thing. We've got some Rams. We've got some Detroit Lions. We don't have any Minnesota Vikings. Maybe we're gonna save that other Minnesota spot there for a nice Viking player here. Or maybe we're gonna Kirk Cousins up here. I'm not sure. But in the flex though, let's look at the guy that you were just talking about here. Let's go Ty Johnson.
Okay, I like that.
All right. Now, granted, he's not a wide receiver, but he does get us to a 6,200 price tag. Now let's see. How much was Kirk Cousins again?
I believe it was like 65. Yeah, 65.
That's too bad. That's too bad because I really wanted to fit Adam Thielen in this lineup. I just was hooked on a feeling here.
Well, let's see. Let's see how we can do this.
Okay, let's see.
So
Kirk
73
Cousins.
for Kirk Cousins. So that leaves us with 32 remaining for the.
It's 6,000. I think we could get rid of Ty. We could go cheaper on.
We can go cheaper
flex.
on that.
Yeah, so let's just plug Thielen in here and see what happens because Thielen's always underpriced, and he's been playing great. 7,300. Let's see. What do we have left? 3,300. Oh boy,
that's
gonna be It's gonna be a double tight end.
We can put Ty Johnson in that lineup.
No, he was 4,300.
No, he's not. You're thinking of Ty Johnson, the Jets. I'm sorry. Tyler Johnson, the Buccaneers. That's my touchdown.
That's who you're talking about. Tyler touchdown Johnson. I'm sorry.
That's who I thought you meant.
You're right. Fine. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Here he is, 3,300. You're right. Tyler touchdown Johnson.
I mean, not much else you're going to get unless you're going the tight end route. There's Albert Wilson down there in the 3,200.
I do like playing Albert Wilson. If I do like playing him because they like to try and get him involved in a lot of ways.
In a lot of different ways. So I think he would be a pretty decent play at that flex position.
Yeah.
Laquan Treadwell is down there in that range.
Yep.
We talked about Tavon Austin, all the different tight ends that we talked about that fit in under that $3,000 dollar mold. So I think there's definitely some opportunity there at that tight end position, but it's not a bad lineup to be able to fit, the number one wide receiver and the number one running back in your lineup. And even if you wanted to switch up with Kirk Cousins and, go with a different quarterback, you can go different places with this lineup.
I was just thinking you could put Tavon Austin there and then you're 2,800. Let's rock this guy here. What's his name?
Jordan
Akins on Akins is involved down there. $2,700. No one's gonna play that guy. Let's see who they're playing. Indianapolis, 31st in the league against tight ends. I can see him getting involved. Anyway, point is that you're right. You don't have to stick with your original gut. You can go to a cheaper guy here. We can go to a cheaper defense. We love the Dolphins, sure. But we were talking about other defenses down here too. Maybe we play the football team against the Raiders. And what do we got left for tight end? 3,600. Now we're talking here, right? Cole Kmet is up here at 3,600. Evan Ingram, our friend Jack Doyle, who just came out of nowhere again, right? We just had a conversation about him. So there's a lot of ways you can go here, and we won't finish this one up right now. But I mean, just this is to away. You got Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen paired together. You got Josh Reynolds as a run back in Detroit. You got Cooper Kupp there, and Tavon Austin from that Jacksonville and Rams game. Jonathan Taylor's going to eat all day long in Houston, and Jamal Williams is going to have the opportunity. So yeah, I kind of like this lineup here.
Yeah, not a bad way to make it work, and I really like highlighting a lot of the values that we showed to be able to get some the guys who realistically, we saw a 5 touchdown game from Jonathan Taylor. We've seen 3 touchdown games from Cooper Kupp. You could be looking at 2 guys to start your lineups that could be getting you 80 points, possibly 90 points, to start your week. Then the rest of these guys just kind of filling it out. That's how you get into 200 points this week.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, it's been an hour, and we've had a lot of fun. We're talking about DFS values on DraftKings. It's all about building a better lineup. It's all about being smarter when you're building a lineup. And again, I don't mean to reiterate it, but one of the things that we talked about here and we highlighted here is, something like with the Dolphins defense right below them, the Vikings are playing Detroit. Everyone's going to play the Vikings against Detroit for 3,200 for 100 more. You get the Dolphins against the Giants, equally great matchup from a defensive standpoint. It's just looking at values a little bit, not just from the idea that, we can figure out a way like we just did to put in multiple studs into a lineup and have a great upside lineup by using values, but it's also looking at the values and saying where you can immediately just say, where is the crowd going? Which way is the crowd going to go? We know Debo's going to be out. Ayuk's going to be popular. So when you look at Ayuk at a cheap price, don't just look at the price. Look at the guys above and beyond below him that you might also say, hey, this is a great play here. And it's probably going to go overlooked because everyone's just going to rush to play Ayuk at a cheap price. So we gave you a lot of great stuff to talk about from a DFS value standpoint. We'll be back later this week with the Stack Show, talking about building stacks and build you another lineup, maybe build a Millie Maker lineup. Who knows? We can get crazy there. I think you still owe me another Millie Maker lineup from a previous bet there. At least one. But the reality is this is Real Deal Fantasy HQ. We give the best DFS advice for you for free every week, not just with these videos, but with what we're writing on the site. So please come on and join us at realdealfantasyhq.com this weekend. Check out the Week 13 full preview, and then the Sunday night, and then the Monday night games. Thursday night will go up tomorrow as well. So please lock it in, realdealfantasyhq.com. My name is Sean at Delray Boston. That's my man, Lee Maddish like a radish. Last name first, as always, on Twitter. And how do we close these shows out, Lee?
Oh, where's my camera? Hashtag make that money.
That's right. that is right.
Oh.